A series on grammar, singular versus plural. I'm Karin with Right Now Editing, where we turn good manuscripts into great books.
And I'm Pegg Thomas, multi-award winning author and editor, and we are two editors for 5 minutes.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about the singular versus the plural. Peg, what's the difference between singular and plural?
Well, singular is just one and plural is more than one. But when
And
you're
when we
using pronouns, you have to use different pronouns to differentiate. If you have one person you're using a pronoun for or multiple person, is it a he, just one, or is it a they, several?
and I think the problem where I'm starting to see this in books, I forgot the timer, start the timer a little late. Um, is nowadays, whether you like it or not, it is acceptable to use they as a singular pronoun in sentences where you're not talking about anyone specifically. And so sometimes they becomes singular, but the problem you're seeing is when it's actually plural and the rest of the sentence doesn't reflect that. So as I was talking with Peg earlier, reading a story about maybe a family and there's tragedy and something happened and they're all sad. And I'm very often seeing where the book will say, and their heart was broken. But the problem is you're talking about a family, and that family is multiple people. They don't have one heart. These are multiple people with multiple hearts. So you would actually need to write that their hearts were broken.
Exactly. And some people don't realize, for whatever reason, they missed it in third grade or something, that we have verbs that are plural or singular, was and were, right?
Mhm.
Was is for a singular, and were is for plural. And I happen to live in a part of the country where people have forgot that there is a word was. Everything is were, or they'll flip it and everything is was and they've never heard of were, and that's just wrong. And there's no Chicago manual style that's going to say you can use whichever one you want. You need to use the verb that matches how many people are in your subject, how many people are alluded to with a pronoun. Or if you just say, 6 horses, instead of a horse, and then you have to use were instead of was for however you're going to describe them. But parts of our country, it's kind of slipped into the language, and people don't know where to use was and were.
And it's always okay if you have one character that speaks that way, or if you're really going to set this someplace in the South where it's a little community and that's the way that they speak there, but you have to be consistent with it. And
Yeah.
that's, I think, the big problem is that it's not being used consistently. And again, I do think part of the problem is because they now can be used as a singular pronoun. So it's offering up a lot of confusion. Um, this is one of our shorter
Yeah.
weeks because
But
there's not really much else to say on this other
but
than
we should differentiate what you just said. You were talking about dialogue.
yes,
Where we're seeing a
yes.
lot of the mistakes is not in dialogue. Okay. In dialogue, yes, people talk the way they talk, and it's okay to have a character or two that have a dialect or whatever and use grammar incorrectly. I do that all the time in historical. I'll pick up dialects from where the people come from, and I will use that in their dialogue, but not outside of dialogue, because at that point, you're just going to annoy your readers, at least the ones who know English pretty well.
So that's it. Keep an eye on it in your manuscripts. If you're critiquing or, beta reading for somebody, keep an eye on it for them because it is something that is popping up on a more regular basis. And we would hate for someone to pass on your manuscript or to not give you a great review because your plurals and singulars are getting messed up.
This is true.
So we've got at least one more grammar week next week. So stop back then. And in the meantime, I'm Karen Bury with Right Now Editing.
And I'm Peg Thomas, and we'll see you next time.